Forget Year of the Dragon, last year was Year of the KVM. We saw a wave of new KVM devices, from the tiny and affordable Nano KVM to the sleek and user-focused Jet KVM, and even a late entry at the end of 2024 that works seamlessly with your existing PiKVM setup. Meet the PiKVM Switch, a new device that lets you remote control up to 4 machines, and it's pretty advanced. And it also lets you stack up to 5 of these devices, giving you remote control of up to 20 machines. But it also has a few tricks up its sleeve, like HDMI pass-through, daisy chain powering and updating, and something that I've discovered and wanted a long time ago, which is local control too. But wait, can't we already do all of this and expand the number of devices we connect without it? Didn't I even cover this in a previous video? Well, yes and no, but we'll dive into what makes this switch different a little bit later. But first of all, why even use an IP KVM? Can't you just remote control a machine with software? While software-based remote control works for many tasks, IP KVMs give you something software can't: access to the machine before it boots. Now, that's invaluable for getting into the BIOS, tweaking settings, or installing other operating systems. You can have full control over the machine at the hardware level, all through a web browser, and you can do it over the network. So about these devices, the PiKVM team sent me these switches to test with my setup. I've been putting it through its paces over the last couple of weeks to see how it performs. The Switch is an all-metal device that shares the industrial, minimalist aesthetic as the original PiKVM. Along the front, you'll find big, bold numbers for each KVM port. And for each port, there's a full-size HDMI port for video, a USB-C port for peripherals, and an ATX connection that lets you power on the machine even when it's off. This port also lets you reset the machine, and it even gives you hard drive activity indicator lights in the UI. Each port also has an RGB light to indicate which device you're controlling, and it's not just for looks. You can use it to locate the machine you're working on by making it flash. If we flip it around, the back of the device looks quite different. You'll notice that there are 2 sections to the Switch, an uplink side and a downlink side. Each has an HDMI port, 12-volt power, an RGB light, and a control and OTG port. So focusing on the uplink side, this is where you connect to either another switch or the PiKVM itself. Now inside of these devices are custom-made boards, with the brains of the device being the RP2040 to handle control and handshake of the devices you plug in. They also chose to develop the entire circuit from scratch instead of using a ready-made one. This gave them the flexibility to fully control all of the ports and software, rather than depending on pre-made with pre-made logic, and if they run into compatibility issues in the future, they can fix it with a simple firmware update. Which, by the way, is pretty awesome. If you flash one of the devices in the chain with the latest firmware, it will then push that firmware update to all connected devices and update them too. You can connect up to 5 PiKVM switches to the PiKVM for a total of 20 devices. This limitation is based on the USB spec, which has a hard limit of 5 daisy chain hubs. Remember the number of 5 USB hubs, it'll come into play later. Each additional KVM connects downstream to the previous KVM. Now, I was told the connection between each KVM could reach up to 5 meters in their own testing. I only have about 2-meter cables, and they work just great. There are also RGB lights on the switch to help you identify which switch you are connected to by toggling the uplink and downlink icons. And once you connect all of your cables from your switch to your PiKVM, you're ready to go. And as you can see, it works with a variety of devices. ZimaCube Pro, MSA1, V-Link EQ13, 11th Gen Intel NUC, Zima board, PiKVM, and this is a Raspberry Pi for Jeff Geerling. And I have all of these devices connected to these 2 switches. Now this first switch controls these 4 devices, and then I added on this, which then controls the Zima board, the PiKVM, the custom PC that's right there, and even the old iMac right there. Now you might have noticed that this screen is duplicating whatever the current screen is that's selected with PiKVM, and that's because it supports HDMI pass-through. But one thing I found that's really cool, I found a way to connect a hub to all of these devices, so as you switch through, it's actually passing these devices to every single port as you select them. And why is that important? Well, it's nice to have like a Ventoy USB drive here, so as I switch devices, I could flash any one of these devices just from this one USB drive. The other nice thing is that, hey, I get local control. Now,
That might be kind of hard to see. Let me do something really obvious. I'm actually controlling this machine here, which is that machine over there. I can also come right over here and do the same thing. And you can see, obviously, it's reflected in both the monitor and PiKVM web UI. So I can set up machines on my workbench, work on them if I want, and then if I'm away from them, or I'm over here and too lazy to turn around and flash a machine, I can do it all from the PiKVM website. PiKVM website that's hosted on the PiKVM local, obviously. The way that this USB hub is connected to everything else is it's the first device downstream from the PiKVM, but upstream of the PiKVM switch. Now, why is that important? Well, it needs to be upstream from the first switch, so it will pass all those devices down through to it. But since this is a USB hub, and these are technically USB hubs too, it means that now I can only have 4 additional switches. So remember earlier I said, hey, it supports up to 5 KVM switches, up to 20 devices, and that's based on the USB spec of being able to daisy chain 5 hubs. Well, this counts as a hub, and it means that now I can only connect 16 devices. But just note, if you're gonna do 20 devices and you want to do this USB hub, you really can't. You can only go up to 16. But again, that's a USB spec limitation, nothing to do with the PiKVM itself, and they might solve it with software.
You can access the switch and connected devices in the PiKVM web UI, which is hosted on the PiKVM's IP address. Once in, you'll notice a new item in the header. This is how you manage the switch. What's great is that you don't have to do anything extra for this to work. Unlike some of the other PiKVM integration, the switch is automatically detected and all the configuration happens right in the UI.
All of these devices are working great. So if I switch to this custom PC, I can then show off how the ATX Power works. So inside of there, I connected the ATX card to pins that then connect to the motherboard that then connect to the switch itself. So I can, power my PC on this way, or I can actually do it through the UI too. So let's do it through the UI. So if I'm on the UI and I go to custom PC, I can just press the power button, confirm it's okay. And there it goes. It's starting up right now. And you could kind of see it off to the side, it's starting up. And then we should see, that screen pop up on here as soon as the video card initializes. Pretty cool, I'm able to power on a machine from anywhere, from this web UI. For these devices, a little bit harder. I tried to open these up, custom motherboard, custom motherboard, custom motherboard, custom motherboard. When you start to get into mini devices, you aren't gonna have those ATX headers that you have on most motherboards on PCs, so it doesn't really apply to these. So if you want to power cycle these, you're going to have to either hook up a smart switch and toggle that, or figure something else out. Now, one thing I would have loved to see is just a physical button to toggle through these. I know that these are meant to be tucked away in a data center or a workbench somewhere, but in a setup like this, where I might be configuring multiple machines, it'd be great to just be able to press a button somewhere on here and toggle the active device. And the same with here. But overall, these are awesome. And if you can't tell, this is peak dongle right here. So I have a HDMI dongle to DVI to a DVI cable going to a DVI to HDMI into that Mac back there. It works pretty good with dongles. I'm going to try VGA to HDMI as soon as my adapter comes in. I specifically want to plug it into some of my super micro servers because those are the ones that don't work with my TE Smart Switch and this PiKVM. But with these smarter software-defined controllers in here and the ability to customize these EDIDs, maybe it'll work. That would be great because even though I have IPMI on those 2 servers and other servers, it's nice having one pane of glass to manage all of this.
I've had a ton of fun testing this device, if you couldn't tell. What started as a setup with just 3 or 4 machines quickly expanded to 8 unique devices. And I'm happy to say that the PiKVM Switch worked perfectly on all of them, including my stubborn Intel 11 NUC, which has been problematic on other KVMs in the past. With that being said, it's now time to figure out who this is for and whether it's worth it for you. First, let's talk about the price. The PiKVM Switch is priced at $250. Now that's a significant investment, especially if you've already purchased the PiKVM V4 Plus. If you're adding this to an existing PiKVM, you're essentially gaining control of only 3 additional devices since the PiKVM itself already supports 1. The good news is that if you built a DIY one, the total cost might be a little cheaper than the PiKVM V4 Plus or even the PiKVM V3, so the calculus is a little bit hard to do. The decision becomes even more challenging when you look at some of the alternatives. The EasyCoo switch, for example, is only $125 and offers a similar functionality but lacks the ATX support for powering machines on and off. The TE Smart rack mount switches are about the same price as the PiKVM switch, but they also lack ATX support. And on top of that, I've had nothing but trouble with those switches when working with some of my devices, so they're hard for me to recommend. Then there's the Jet KVM. It's sleek, easy to use, and looks great, but it doesn't scale at all. If you need more devices, you just buy more devices and units instead of expanding like you do with the PiKVM switch. So here's how I'd break it down. If you already have a PiKVM and you want to connect more devices, and you're looking for a truly advanced KVM system that integrates seamlessly with your existing PiKVM, supports HDMI pass-through, and even offers local control, the PiKVM Switch hands down is your best bet. On the other hand, if you don't need to scale up in increments of 4, or your additional devices don't require ATX power support, or you haven't decided on a KVM yet, there are plenty of other options that I mentioned earlier that could fit your needs. All that being said, if you already have a PiKVM and you pick up a PiKVM Switch, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a high-quality device that lets you expand your existing PiKVM instead of replacing it, and it's designed to grow with your setup as your setup grows. It's incredible to think that we now have so many options for IP KVMs. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Tim. Thanks for watching.